Hi, welcome back to the Model 3 Man channel. And this episode, I've been promising for a long time, a few months. It's difficult to do because there are so many features that I would want to put in my top 10 reasons for purchasing a Tesla Model 3. This truly is a subjective decision, my personal top 10, and you may well disagree, you may well have others. If you do, put them in the comments below. But today, the top 10 reasons for purchasing a Tesla Model 3. And a bonus of 2 additional reasons. I had to put them in. And then we'll get into, from number 10 down to number 1, the reasons why buying a Tesla Model 3 makes perfect sense. So I said first of all that I'd be looking at 2 bonus reasons, and here's one of them. Attention to detail. You know, when Tesla designed the Model 3, they didn't just throw together the cheapest, the most economical car they could put together. They gave thought to every single little detail. Let me just list a few of them here. Soft touch coat hangers. They don't just drop, they slide out. Open the front, and you've got hooks for grocery bags. Here's a third one. I really like the position that the cup holders have in the front seat, where your arm rests on the armrest. The cup holder is right there. Number 4, the interior lights are soft fade. I'm sure that that's present in other cars. It's great that they put them in the Model 3. Remember, this is the economy version. Number 5, just the ability to lengthen your sunshade. Sometimes the sun comes in from the side and it just gets past the edge of the sunshade. Well, slide it back. Adjusting the front safety belts. I'm a tall guy, 6'2.5". And so being able to push the safety belt attachment higher or lower is a useful feature. Then I love the fact that the armrests, both the one in the door and the one in the middle, are completely flat. It makes it much more comfortable over a period of time to rest your arm on a flat surface. And then if you look at the central console and you open the covers, they're pretty deep. You can take large objects and push them down and they fit. And now in the back seat, if you've only got 2 passengers, one in each of the 2 seats, you can flip down the middle and it becomes an armrest and a dual cup holder. If you open the trunk, and you're holding a bag of groceries with one hand, and it's fantastic to be able to reach up inside the trunk and pull it down from within. They've got a recessed handle on both sides. And then finally, if your charger locks into the charging port and you can't get it to release, there is on the inside of the trunk a manual pull lever, and you're able to manually release the pin that locks your charger. These were evidence of the attention to detail that this car got. And here's the second bonus reason. The absolutely radical and innovative HVAC system. Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Now in most of the cars that we've ever owned, tiny little plasticky vents with levers and flaps are the order of the day. In the Model 3, a completely new design. Look across the dashboard and there's one long horizontal slit. And behind that are vents that can direct it sideways or that can split the air to go on either side of you. But how does the air go up or down? How do we redirect it vertically? And the clever patent that Tesla lodged here details a second vent, not a horizontal vent facing the driver, but a vertical vent that sits just a few inches in front of that horizontal opening. And the vertical vent has air coming straight up. And the harder that the air comes up, the more it bends the horizontal plane upwards. So if there's no air coming out of that vertical vent, the air slides down the curve of the dashboard and it would come onto your lap or down even below your lap. And now, down to the top 10. So in at number 10, Tesla is a pure EV company. They don't have a competing technology. They don't have a hybrid. They don't use hydrogen. They don't have combustion cars. They are pure EV. And that's something that cannot be said for any of the other mainstream companies. General Motors, Toyota, Mercedes, BMW. All of them are heavily reliant on ICE vehicles for their very existence. When I was a kid, I always remember a race that we used to run in elementary school. It was called a three-legged race. Two individuals had their inner legs tied together, effectively creating a participant that had three legs. The kids ran, and of course, much of the time, people fell, and the results were hilarious. That three-legged race is a lot like the modern traditional car manufacturers, who are trying to do two different things. They're trying to run a race in which combustion engine cars are the very core of their existence. But at the same time, they're trying to create this electric vehicle dimension. They're trying to do them both at the same time. But here's what happens. If you push the one hard, you kill the other. If you push that one hard, you disable the ability for the other one to get ahead. So let's imagine, for example, we have a traditional car manufacturer. Let's call them General Motors. And General Motors decides they're going to build an electric car. Let's call it, just for argument's sake, the Bolt, Chevy Bolt. Yeah, no one would call a car that. That's ridiculous, but let's call it the Bolt. And so the Chevy Bolt is going to be a great little compact electric vehicle. It'll do more than 200 miles on a single charge. It'll be effectively good value for money. It won't cost that much. Let's imagine how that advertising campaign might just go. Buy the Chevy Bolt. Never again will you have to rely on gasoline. Never again will you pollute the environment. You'll be able to charge at home, plug it in, never have to visit a gas station. Simply wake up in the morning and your car is fully charged. None of the other combustion cars will have the same thrust and the same torque and the same acceleration as you'll have in the Bolt. So, welcome to pollution-free motoring. Welcome to ease of charging at home. Welcome as well to good range and fast recharging. Yeah, can you really imagine General Motors using that kind of advertising? Can you imagine that they would say anything that might prejudice their combustion engine lineup, that might in fact undermine the very existence of combustion engine cars? They couldn't do it. And when we go and look at the advertising on their Bolt page, and they do not make the case for why you should be buying a pure electric vehicle. So there it is. Tesla has a pure electric vehicle lineup. All of the other manufacturers are in the impossible position of not being able to truly compete with their own traditional products. Number 9, and that is road holding. One of the real advantages that all electric cars share is a low center of gravity. The fact that the battery pan is down just above the wheelbase. It enables easier road handling, cornering, road holding. And of course, all Teslas have this, and the Model 3 is no exception. The Model 3 has about the best road holding capabilities that you would wish for in a car. Obviously, there are many factors that contribute toward great cornering, great road holding. One is that low center of gravity. Number 2 is the suspension system, which has been carefully tuned. Another factor is, of course, the stock tires that come with the car have excellent road holding properties. In terms of regular, everyday riding, they do a great job. The other issue, of course, is where the batteries are positioned. And while the batteries are, of course, in a tray right at the base, it's also laterally positioned so that it doesn't go into the front crumple zone, neither does it go into the trunk crumple zone. When I had my accident after 6 weeks of owning the car, and we were hit so hard from behind, the rear of the trunk crumpled, as it was meant to do. That never came anywhere near the rear motor or the battery pan. So we never had any damage there whatsoever. It also means that when it's positioned in the center of the vehicle, it gives the car better road handling characteristics. It's no accident that almost every reviewer refers to the amazing way that the car corners. They just enjoy driving windy roads. It's not an accident, it's design. That design intentionally gives us the best road holding and handling conditions that you could wish for. On to number 8. Unmatched Safety. Now recently, on the 20th of September 2018, the NHTSA brought out their report. The Model 3 achieved not only a 5-star overall rating, but 5 stars in every category and in every subcategory. In fact, it was listed as the vehicle with the lowest probability of injury of any of the cars that they'd measured. I can tell you from experience, when we had that rear end collision, the car was immobile afterwards. Seconds after the accident, we opened our front doors, and Janine and I stepped out, and we were completely uninjured. And that's not just my story. There are many stories on YouTube and on the internet of passengers, of drivers who've been in a Tesla and who've had an accident and have got out, walked away, and had virtually no injuries. So I can just tell you from sad experience that it's a very safe vehicle. Once again, this safety is not an accident. It's design. They've designed the car so that there are zones of progressive crumpling in the front and the back. What they've done is to make sure that the passenger compartment and the driver compartment is very rigid, so that the rest of the car will crumble, but the cabin will remain intact. Even with a side crash, the driver and the passengers are still kept in this safe, reinforced cabin. And one of the reasons that a side impact is so safe is because the battery tray is exceptionally rigid, and so it resists being deformed when impact comes from the side. You can be hit from the side, you can be hit from the front or the back, and the cabin remains a zone of safety. Number 7 has to do with the minimalist design, radically minimalist, in fact. I think the thing that most people notice, the thing that is most evident when a person sits in a Model 3 is the emptiness, the nothingness on the dashboard. Yes, there's a 15-inch computer screen in the middle of the car, but there's nothing else. There are no binnacles, no dials, no buttons, no vents, no tiny little displays. There's just nothing. There's a clean, beautiful wood-finished dashboard, and it's empty. Now, let me list a few of the other areas of the car that benefit from this same minimalist design. The second one, of course, is the HVAC system. One long horizontal slot, one thin vertical slot. That's it. All the rest, direction, splitting the air, all gets controlled from the computer center. And we don't see it. It's beautifully, radically simple. The size and the position of the media screen. Your interface to the car is that screen. And when you look at it and you see it in photographs, it looks strange. It looks like it would be difficult to reach to it and to do things and to control it. But in reality, it simply isn't. Elon has listened to us. The screen has been redesigned. The driver has now full view of the speed, the remaining battery charge, the next turn if he is navigating, the time, the temperature. It's all there in the left side of the screen. Very easy to view, very easy to interact with. So this is a screen that is not just tacked onto the front. If you put two hands on the sides and you move with any level of force, it doesn't move. It's very, very well integrated into the dashboard, and it's very stable. So whatever else you might think of it, it's been engineered beautifully, and it gives us a great way of interacting with all of the car's settings. Just take a look at the central console. The minimalist design. It's a single long flowing curve. Of course, if you open each of the covers, you get into the 3 compartments. But by its appearance and by its design, it's smooth, it's simple, and it flows from the back by the armrest right up to the front. And I just love the way that it creates this natural flow between passenger and driver. Get out of the car, take a look from the front, and the nose of the car, much maligned in those early days just after the 2016 reveal. That is one of the most beautiful curves I've seen in a car. And obviously it serves the purpose of creating a low drag coefficient, but it's not broken up with a grille or any of the other weird and ridiculous things that car manufacturers feel compelled to stick on the front end of the car. It's a simple, beautiful, smooth curve, and it lowers the drag coefficient to an incredible 2.3, I think it is. And then, of course, there's that wonderful all-glass roof. While it is in segments, joins neatly together and looks like a single continuous piece of curved glass. And for those in the car, the ability to look up through the all-glass roof, whether you're a passenger in the back or you're the driver in the front, that's incredible. And on we go to number 6, Enhanced Autopilot. For the first 5 months of owning the vehicle, I did not have use of Autopilot, but I'd always known that at some point in time, I'd be getting Enhanced Autopilot. The first, of course, is Auto Steer. Number 2, Traffic Aware Cruise Control. Number 3, Independent Lane Change. Number 4, Summons. And then number 5 is, of course, Auto Park. Having just been able to take advantage of the 30-day free Autopilot trial, I think I'm in a good position to give you a fairly impartial opinion. I didn't miss it that much when I didn't have it. And that's just because I didn't actually know what I was missing. At the end of the 30-day trial, I simply had to buy it. A lot of people wonder, would I really benefit by the Autopilot feature? If these are true of you, you'll definitely benefit by having Autopilot. So first of all, you often drive long distances on freeways or highways. You frequently encounter stop-go type of traffic. Thirdly, you find that on long trips, you get tired. There's a point where you will not admit to yourself that you're tired enough to stop. Sometimes you find yourself just ping-ponging. You wander. You're still within the lane, but you know that you're getting tired and sometimes you're not sticking to where you should. Sometimes you're driving along and you're just driving through such gorgeous scenery and you wish you could just take your eyes off the road and appreciate what's going past you. And then finally, you're prone to driving at night and almost feeling hypnotized. So if any of these are true of you, you will absolutely love and you'll benefit from Autopilot. And since I've now purchased it and I've been driving it for several weeks, I can tell you that it takes the stress out of driving in ways you could never have believed until you actually used Autopilot. Here's the nice thing. It keeps getting better. Elon keeps giving us software updates, and with each of those updates, some aspect of Autopilot's behavior has improved. Show me another car that does that. And we're down to number 5. And number 5 has got to be the audio. To me, it's the best audio in a car that I've ever owned. And I've had maybe 13, 14 different cars in my long life. The audio in this one is fantastic. So first of all, just the sheer number of speakers. There are 15 individual speakers in the car. 3 up in the front on the dashboard, 1 each in the front passenger and driver door. There are 2 tweeters that sit up at eye level in the corner of the doorpost, just at the base of the window. There are some mid-range speakers that sit high up just to the rear of the A-pillar. There's a passive tweeter right in the front of the dashboard. In the back area, we've got mid-range speakers in the left and the right doors. We've got speakers on the back parcel shelf, and these are also mid-range cones. And then back in the trunk, we've got the subwoofer, which kicks out ultra-low bass. So number of speakers, unparalleled. Number 2, the distribution of the speakers. See, it's not about how many speakers you have. If all those speakers were at the front of the car, it would mean nothing. But the distribution, putting them high, eye level, putting them low, putting them in the trunk, moving them around all of the passengers, it's the distribution that creates the extended sound. And the distribution in the Model 3 is unparalleled. Thirdly, the frequency range. Now, between the subwoofer, the woofers, the mid-range, the tweeters, all of the important frequencies that make up music are represented by the various speakers. So the tweeters put out the ultra-high sounds. The subwoofer kicks in that 50 hertz, 60 hertz bass kick drum sound. The woofers in the front door put out some very substantial bass. Of course, the mid-range speakers, of which there are more, put out the middle sounds, the sounds where voices and guitars and mid-range piano comes from. And then, of course, the tweeters put out the very high sound as well. So with all of the frequencies covered, it's got to be a great audio experience. And then there's immersive sound. Now you have to get into the settings to be able to see that. When you tap on the settings icon, you'll see that we have tone controls. That's the basic adjustment for frequencies. We have positioning, where you can move the central point of all of the speakers forward, backward, left or right. And then the third one is called options. And when you go into the options, you can see that there's something called immersive sound. I'll give you a hint, put it on high. Don't have it off, whatever you do. Put it on standard or put it on high. And here's what it does. It effectively moves different sounds, different frequencies to different speakers around you. And it's much like, for those who do any recording, stereo widening. But it's stereo widening on steroids. It really puts the different sounds in the music in different speakers so that all of a sudden you can feel and you can hear that the sound is all around you. So turn on immersive sound, put it on high, and you'll enjoy your music even more. Down to number 4, the best battery pack in the industry. Now, those of you who've sat through Jack Rickard's YouTube presentation on a battery teardown, you cannot fail to be impressed. It's long, but here are some of the results of that battery teardown. Tesla battery technology is the state of the art in the industry. There are several things that you have to do to make sure that they last. The one is efficient heat management. So if the ambient temperature around the car gets too cold, there has to be active warming of the battery tray. And then on the other extreme, in very, very hot climates, there has to be active cooling of the individual cells. Now, of course, the Model S and the Model X are using the 18650 cells, but the Model 3 is using the 2170, which is slightly taller, slightly wider, but giving 35 to 40% greater density. Tesla have been able to pack an amazing amount into the battery pack.
Is about 20 kilowatts, and that would make sense since we got 80 total here. This is pretty cool. I can't get over this. What a slick deal. I'll just go ahead and declare this the best battery in the world of any kind, anywhere.
Jack Rickard estimates that it's somewhere in the order of 80 kilowatt hours, of which about 75 are usable, which goes some way to explaining why it is that the long-range Model 3 performs above expectations. Now, obviously, the great advantage for Tesla is that they own the battery manufacturing plant. So together with Panasonic, the Gigafactory is where batteries are made and assembled and packed and created into modules. And by the way, the module pack, as you can see here, is 4 individual modular units. 2 of them are slightly longer, the 2 in the center, and the 2 on the outside are a little shorter. In total, there are 4,416 individual little cells. So that's an enormous amount of batteries. It's only the Tesla Model 3 that is using the new 2170s. That will change over time, but for now, if you want that battery technology, you're going to get the Model 3. Finally, just on a note from Elon's letter to shareholders on May the 2nd, 2018, he stated this. And in Jack Rickard's teardown, he weighed the battery pack. It came to 1,050 pounds. And number 3 in my list is the Supercharger Network. Now, it stands to reason that if you were buying an electric car and you were given the assurance that no matter where you traveled, Tesla would build and operate and ensure that they were available a beautiful supercharging area where you could drive your car, plug it in, and be confident that day or night you'd be able to charge. You see, here's the thing. None of the other manufacturers have taken control and responsibility for the act of charging. We have chargers, but listen, those are not owned by individual car manufacturers. So what Tesla has that is unique is control of its own charging capabilities. That's a huge advantage. None of the other manufacturers have yet signaled that they're going to go down the same road. Tesla, on the other hand, are increasing their network astronomically. Now, the figures that I've got here, I'm quite sure have already been outdated, but listen to these. First of all, the number of supercharging stations or areas where you can charge, 1,342. Number of individual chargers, over 11,000, almost 12,000 as of now. There's a very extensive list of opening soon locations. I live in Canada, and we have a really large gap through the prairies and heading out toward the east. All of that is being filled in the next round of supercharged manufacturing. In America, of course, you already have that. Have a look at some of these maps. What a magnificent advantage for a car company, for Tesla to say, we provide the charging infrastructure. You just come and use it. My number 2 is over-the-air updates. They abbreviate that as OTA. So listen, we've all had smartphones for a good 10 years now. When you think of your smartphone, certain things come to mind. One, you need to charge regularly. But the other things that are significant involve updates, upgrades, new programs, new apps. You've become used to upgrading that software. Why should our cars not be the same? Why can the cars not improve? Well, obviously, that's a rhetorical question, because Tesla's cars do. We have over-the-air updates. We have upgrades that bring new features. We have additional apps that are put into the operating system. It's a no-brainer. We've got used to it on our phones. We love it in our Teslas. But who else is taking that on? What other manufacturer is giving the guarantee of over-the-air updates? And I'm sorry, I do not know of any. And Elon says, listen, a phone gets updated over the air. Our cars are computers on wheels. They should be updated over the air. That is an amazing, it's a colossal advantage. And until other manufacturers start to think in that same way, they will not be Tesla killers. OTA is the way to go. What's left for number 1? And in a way, it's surprising. The number 1 reason to buy a Tesla and to buy a Model 3 is Elon Musk himself. Now, there are a few figures today that are as controversial. Love him or hate him, no one can deny that Elon Musk is the reason for Tesla's success. That Elon Musk is the reason for SpaceX's unbelievable advances in space technology, or the Boring Company, or, well, you name it. Insert anything that Elon invents, because what he puts his mind to and what he decides to do actually happens. Now, we all know there's such a thing as Elon time. It takes longer than predicted. We don't care. We love the man for the visionary that he is. We love the fact that he stands up against all odds, despite hostility and attacks that would cripple you and I. Elon has persisted despite all of this. And you know, when people think about how is it that he just carries on, how does he simply soldier on, I'm going to suggest that there is one reason that's much less well discussed than others: his South African heritage. Now, I speak as an ex-South African. And I just want to give you a little insight into the South African character or personality. So here are some things that virtually all South Africans share. And if you have South African friends out there, you'll know what I'm saying is true. Number 1, politically incorrect. We don't necessarily think very carefully before we speak. We just say it. We say what's in our mind, it comes out. We are politically incorrect. Number 2, we're used to being opposed. You know, in the early terrible days of apartheid, there were many of us in South Africa who fought apartheid in every way we could. That didn't stop the world from opposing all of us as South Africans. We were all considered the polecats of the world. We learned that we had to fight for anything that we wanted because no one was going to give us a break. South Africans are characterized by that spirit of fighting for what they think is right. An attitude of, we'll do it, we can do it. People would say, well, no, but you actually can't do it because this is too difficult and this hasn't been done before. And you really can't go down this road here. And South Africans will say, why? Let's try it. Let's see what happens. And they'll do it. He's a fighter. He's politically incorrect. He doesn't say die. He believes anything can be done because he believes it can be done. Does that ring true? Well, that's the South African character. Elon is a visionary. Elon has the most amazing view of what can be done and what can be achieved. There were so many times along the way that the company almost went bankrupt. Speaking of politically incorrect, remember the Elon joke, April Fool's joke? Tesla has gone bankrupt, completely bankrupt. Who'd say that? Where people believe it might go bankrupt. Well, again, it's the South African humor. I get it, many people get it, and Elon's followers get it. If Elon left the company and if he withdrew from SpaceX and from Tesla and from the Boring Company and from Powerwall and from solar panels, it wouldn't be the same company. It would not have the same DNA. So I say thank goodness that Elon is stubborn enough and persistent enough to continue following his vision. And when I buy a Tesla, when I buy a Model 3, what I'm saying is this: Elon, I believe in you. I believe in your vision. I believe in what you stand for. I'm prepared to wait for this car. I'm prepared to pay more for the car. I'm prepared to accept that there will be the occasional issues that you will stand behind and fix. I believe in your vision, and I want to help you. Elon, we're with you. And that is my number one reason for suggesting that you could do far worse than buying a Tesla. For me, the better choice would be the Tesla Model 3. So if you're thinking about it and you're in the market, I know that for some of you in the United States, your rebate has dropped by half. That's fine. Look, spend the money. Buy the car. There's a benefit in using one of the referral codes that are out there. 6 months of free supercharging. 3 months of additional supercharging if you never formally asked for a test drive from one of the Tesla outlets. Taking a test drive with a friend who has a Tesla doesn't count. So you could get up to 9 months of free supercharging. Obviously, I'd love to encourage you to use my referral code, and it will be right down in the description, so please check it out if you are buying a new Tesla. Thanks again. Looking forward to the next episode, which I'm hoping will be the episode on the sound system, where we can go into it in more detail. In the meantime, drive safe, watch your back, and I'll see you next time.